Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about the breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. Indian security forces foil Pakistan's plot of reviving terrorism in Kashmir. Afghan government releases 100 Taliban prisoners amid confusion over prisoner exchange deal. And Pakistan to remain in grey list as FATF extends action plan deadline for Pakistan. Pakistan is trying hard to whip up havoc and violence through continuous terror attacks and infiltration bids in Kashmir, even as the entire world is focused on fighting the coronavirus pandemic together. However, the Indian security forces, despite suffering losses, managed to foil all its devious agendas. Recently, proactive Indian defense has successfully eliminated the terrorists belonging to Pakistan-based terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed. And it's not a one-off breakthrough, but the forces have been successful in busting all the nefarious anti-India plots hatched in the corridors of Islamabad and Rawalpindi. A report.
In a major setback to Islamabad, Indian security forces recently gunned down Jaish-e-Mohammed commander Sajjad Nawab Dar. Several cases were registered against him, including pertaining to attacks on CRPF camps, and he was also involved in recruitment of youth for joining militancy in Kashmir. Security forces received a tip-off about terrorists hiding in Supor area of Kashmir's Baramulla district, following which a search and cordon operation was launched that led to a gun battle as terrorists opened fire towards security forces. Earlier, the Indian Army neutralized 5 terrorists along the line of control who sneaked in from Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir's Kulgam district. Braving the inclement weather and tough terrains covered in snow, the Indian Army launched a search and cordon operation which culminated into a fierce close-quarter battle during which terrorists were killed. However, 5 Indian Army personnel also lost their lives during the encounter.
4 तारीख को हमें खबर मिली है कि हमें 4 से 5 टेररिस्ट यहाँ से भाग के निकले हैं, तो हमें यहाँ से हेली के द्वारा उस जगह पे ड्रॉप किया गया। तो वहाँ पे स्नो इतनी ज़्यादा थी कि हम छाती से ऊपर तक बर्फ़ में धंस गए। तो वहाँ से निकलने में लगभग हमें आधा घंटा लग गया। आधे घंटे तक हमें अपना वहाँ से निकल करके अपना सामान चेक करके फिर उनका ट्रैक फॉलो किया। जब हमें उनका ट्रैक मिला तो उसको ट्रैक फॉलो करते करते हमें 4 से 5 घंटे लग गए। वहाँ जहाँ पे जाके हमें उनके टेल साइड मिले, तो वहाँ से हमें और भी टेक्टिकली मूवमेंट शुरू हो गई हमारी। उसके बाद थोड़े से आगे जाकर के हमें स्पॉट हुए, तो वहाँ पे हमें जो टेररिस्ट दिखाई दिए उनके ऊपर हमने M0 फायर किया। तो वहाँ पे बहुत ही गहरा नाला था, तो वो टेररिस्ट उस नाले में कूद गए। तो जैसे हम आगे उनको चेक करने के लिए गए, वहाँ पे हमें लग रहे थे। तो उस जगह पे 2 कॉर्नर बनते हैं, 2 पहाड़ियाँ। तो एक साइड में हमारा स्क्वाड, एक साइड में सुबह संजीव साहब का स्क्वाड हो गया। तो हम बैठ रहे थे, तो उसी टाइम क्या हुआ, स्लाइड हुई और संजीव साहब के स्क्वाड के 2 बंदे नीचे गिर गए। तो उनको बचाने के लिए संजीव साहब के साथ में करके और नीचे टेररिस्ट के साथ मुठभेड़ हो गई। तो उनकी बहुत ही ज़्यादा फाइट हुई और आपस में वो बहुत ज़्यादा गुत्थम-गुत्था की लड़ाई हो गई। तो सुबह संजीव साहब ने एक टेररिस्ट को बुरी तरह से पकड़ लिया और चिल्ला रहे थे, और थोड़ी देर में उनके बड्डी जो है वो भी उनको बचाने के लिए आगे चले गए। जब तक उनको पता नहीं थी कि टेररिस्ट मर गए हैं, बचे हुए हैं। तो उसमें कुछ एक टेररिस्ट छुपे हुए थे। तो जैसे वो नीचे उनको बचाने के लिए गए, तो टेररिस्ट ने उनके ऊपर भी फायर कर दिया। उन्होंने अपनी जान की परवाह किए बिना उन दोनों टेररिस्टों को ही मार गिराया। जब सुबह मैंने उनको देखा, तो उसमें सुबह संजीव साहब जो है एक टेररिस्ट के साथ चिपके हुए थे।
The 5-day pursuit began on April 1st when a group of terrorists tried to infiltrate into Kupwara in North Kashmir. This was followed by a game of hide and seek with frequent gun battles in heavy snow before the 5 terrorists were killed. Indian Army has also recovered a huge amount of arms and ammunition from the site of encounter. This encounter shows a clear Pakistan hand with recoveries of food packets and other essential supplies having a clear imprint of Pakistan.
Last night, we got inputs of them moving in the area south of Nahoma and especially in the area of Kahori Batakund. We had launched an operation there early in the morning, exercising maximum restraint and use of minimum force. We cornered possibly 4 terrorists. Operation is still on, and we offered them to surrender. Since they retaliated with fire, we had no option but to launch operations to neutralize them. Currently, we have neutralized 4 terrorists and recovered 4 weapons from them.
The terror launch pads along the line of control have become active again, and there has been a clear spike in cross-border firing, typically used to distract troops and cover infiltration attempts. Thus, Indian armed forces have intensified their efforts to decimate terrorists from the valley. Security forces have already taken down 41 terrorists in Kashmir this year against 152 that were killed last year. This is expected to go up as terrorists have been trying to push in from the line of control. In terms of ceasefire violations, 1,197 incidents of cross-border firing by Pakistani troops have already been reported this year, with March alone seeing as many as 411 violations. This is a big spike from last year, when the month of March saw 267 violations. Currently, when the entire world is busy fighting with COVID-19 pandemic, Pakistan is focused on aiding and abetting terrorism. Pakistan and its army are fomenting terrorism in India to hide its failure to fight COVID-19. The Indian army is not only fighting COVID-19 with utmost professionalism both in India and in neighboring countries, but it is also concurrently defeating Pakistan's evil designs along the LOC and in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
The Afghan government released 100 Taliban prisoners this week after several attempts of cracking a negotiation on prisoner exchange with the Taliban. The government's move came as a surprise to many as the prisoners were released despite Taliban's decision of suspending prisoner exchange talks and recalling of its negotiators from Kabul. A report.
A month after the US signed the crucial peace deal with the Taliban, the Afghan government released 100 prisoners from a prison near Bagram Air Base as a first step in the peace process with the hardline Islamists. Even though Afghanistan has been suffering from years of war owing to the extremist Taliban fighters, the released Taliban prisoners claim that they look forward to peace and stability in the country. An official prisoner exchange deal has been on the priority list of both the Afghan government and the hardline Taliban, but the lack of understanding and string of confusions is leading to delayed productivity on various crucial issues, including the prisoner exchange deal in the war-torn nation.
The problem is that when they cannot come to an agreement on the very important issues which are critical into the agreement between US and the Taliban, which actually create conflict inside the Afghanistan debate, that actually create obstacle for coming to an agreement. One of the major problems with this current 2 contracts is the release of the 5,000, which is not any sign of there is no sign of such an agreement between the Afghan government and the United States.
Ahead of the release of prisoners, the insurgent group broke off talks with the Afghan government on prisoner exchange by calling it a series of fruitless meetings. The adjournment of meetings from Taliban's side comes as the latest setback for the US-led efforts, as these meetings were seen as crucial steps in peace talks being brokered by the United States after it agreed on a troop withdrawal pact with the extremist group. The United States and the Taliban inked a peace deal in Doha on 29 February that calls for the full withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan within 14 months, including a Taliban guarantee that Afghan soil will not be used as a launch pad against the US and its allies, the launch of intra-Afghan negotiations by March 10, and a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire. The deal also mentioned release of up to 5,000 Taliban prisoners before 10th March. However, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani turned down this demand, saying that it was up to his government to release the prisoners and not the United States, as Ghani's government has no agreement with America in this field. But the latest move of release of 100 prisoners shows Afghan government's repositioning on the issue that has put the peace deal in jeopardy since the very next day of its signing. While the Afghan government is trying to bring the Taliban force to negotiating table, the conflicts between the two sides are unlikely to cease because of the widely discrepancies between them and within the Taliban force.
The current situation is that there are a number of discrepancies in the speeches of the different actors and also the positions of the different actors. And I think one of the reasons that they have not come to a ceasefire agreement is because there are lots of different Taliban troops.
Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on a US-led Afghanistan peacemaking drive has seen progress since he visited Kabul last month to persuade the Afghan president and his main political foe to end their leadership feud. Earlier, in order to bring a solution to the standoff, the US Secretary of State Pompeo had affirmed that all sides should stop posturing and prepare for the intra-Afghan negotiations, including practical discussions about prisoners' release.
And while a reduction of violence is paramount, we also continue to press all sides to stop posturing, start a practical discussion about prisoner releases, knuckle down and prepare for the upcoming inter-Afghan negotiations.
Hours after the prisoner release, 5 rockets hit a US airbase in Afghanistan. The rockets targeting the largest US military compound in Afghanistan were fired from a vehicle parked in an adjoining village. No insurgent group immediately claimed responsibility. The attack comes as the Afghan government launched the release of Taliban prisoners from a jail near the Bagram base as part of a confidence-building step in a US Taliban peace deal aimed at ending about 2 decades of war in Afghanistan.
Moving on, the Financial Action Task Force has extended the deadline for the performance report submission of Pakistan in wake of uncertainty caused due to the coronavirus pandemic. This decision of FATF has further reduced the chances of Pakistan of getting off its grey list even after the end of this year. A report.
Due to the spread of deadly coronavirus pandemic across the world, Financial Action Task Force has extended its deadline for complying conditions for Pakistan for at least 3 months up to October from earlier June 2020. In February this year, FATF placed Pakistan in its grey list as it failed to comply with the 27-point action plan to control funding to terrorist groups. However, research scholars and experts recommend that Pakistan must be blacklisted owing to its constant failure in combating money laundering and terror financing. It not only provides safe haven to these terror groups, but also provide them with persistent military aid and support.
You know, the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, has been giving a lifeline to Pakistan, which to my mind is beyond me. I don't understand why the FATF keeps putting Pakistan on a grey list when Pakistan should definitely be put on the blacklist, given its the recent history that we're seeing. I mean, just recently we found out that Jaish-e-Mohammed's leader, Maulana Masood Azhar, was missing from his home and while under being surveillance. Then he reappeared in Rawalpindi and apparently he's getting some medical treatment. Earlier on, the foreign minister himself said that he's too weak and he's too ill to carry out any activities, but we do know that there are his madrasas and his seminaries and his training centers ongoing. In Balakot, there was one. We found out about it after the whole world found out about it.
The international community has repeatedly accused Pakistan for sponsoring militancy in Afghanistan and Jammu and Kashmir for decades. Pakistan vehemently denies all these charges. However, there are clear evidences of Pakistan's support of the Afghan Taliban Haqqani network and the Quetta Shura. It has augmented Afghanistan instability by providing intelligence, weapons and protection to the Afghan Taliban and the Haqqani network. Even years of US pressure on Islamabad and Rawalpindi have failed to induce Pakistan to change.
Pakistan has been playing this double game, and Pakistan has been playing this double game for a very long time with the international community when it comes to the Kashmir militancy, when it comes to the Afghan militancy. We do know that the Quetta Shura or the Afghan Taliban, all of them were based in Pakistan for the longest time, and now the Americans have had to sort of, in a way, do a peace agreement. Why? Because Pakistan was supporting and sponsoring these militants and supporting them within their country. So Pakistan should be really held accountable to these things. But the fact that terrorism affects all of us, terrorism from Pakistan has affected the rest of the world in the past. So FATF or any other international bodies should and must take action and make Pakistan accountable.
Pakistan on one hand voices support for political reconciliation in Afghanistan, but on the contrary, it never restricted the Afghan Taliban and the Haqqani network from operating in Pakistan-based safe havens. Experts believe that Pakistan never wants to facilitate peace in Afghanistan that culminates in stability and establishment of an elected and powerful political structure in Afghanistan.
Pakistan's ultimate goal is that Afghanistan remains a place where there is always violence and where there is always somewhat of turbulence and somewhat of militant activity, because a stable Afghanistan threatens Pakistan in the sense, because if there is a stable Afghanistan, which will mean Pakistan's area of Pakhtunkhwa will probably start getting more attracted towards Afghanistan, because originally they're all Pashtuns over there. So it's in Pakistan's interest to keep a low intensity conflict ongoing in Afghanistan throughout, and that's why I do not believe this peace agreement right now will bring any results, any positive results. It's just an American face saving. America wants to get out. It's an election year in the US. Trump wants to show that okay, we finished the whole Afghan problem, but they're leaving in haste, which is what they did back in the 80s also. And afterwards we saw what happened. The Taliban government came into place. So things do look like as if they're headed in the same direction of chaos.
Global terror financing watchdog has warned Pakistan to do more to rein in terrorist groups operating from its soil or face the consequences. If Pakistan fails to comply with FATF, it will face a much more aggressive and friendless international community, where it is possible that even allies like China will no longer be able to help to bail out Pakistan.
A feeling of discontent and disaffection is simmering among the residents of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They see no glimmer of development and end to their countless challenges they face in their lives. Abject poverty, high rate of unemployment and deficiency of medical healthcare facilities in the region has left the public with no other choice than taking to the streets of POK and protest against the local administration. Moreover, POK has continued to be a safe haven for terrorist organizations, which Pakistan using this land to nurture terror groups. A report.
The people in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir are unhappy with the government headed by Prime Minister Raja Farooq Haider, as it failed to fulfill promises made during elections. The people say the region lacks development, employment and basic amenities like health and education. The illegally occupied region has been facing problems for the past 70 years, and the promises that the current government made before coming to power were a complete hogwash.
इस मौजूदा हुकूमत को कायम हुए तकरीबन 3.5 साल का अरसा हो गया। चौथा साल उसको जो है ना जी वो शुरू है, वो आगे की सिमत में सफ़र कर रही है। तो इस हुकूमत ने जिस वक्त ये बनने जा रही थी, बहुत सारे वादे किए थे अवाम उन्नास के साथ। जो 70 सालों से लोगों का जो इस्तेसाल हो रहा है, यहाँ गरीब अवाम का इस्तेसाल हो रहा है, यहाँ लोगों को नौकरियाँ नहीं मिल रही हैं, जॉब्स नहीं मिल रही हैं, कोई इंडस्ट्रियल जोन नहीं कायम किए गए हैं जहाँ नौजवानों को एडजस्ट किया जा सके। रात को भी एक रिपोर्ट आ रही थी कि 5.5 लाख से ज़्यादा स्किल्ड एजुकेशन जो है ना जी, वो जो नौजवान हैं उन्होंने बैरून मुल्क जो है वो तरजीह दी है पाकिस्तान की निस्बत। बेरोज़गारी है, गुर्बत है, जहालत है, और उसके अलावा मेरिट की जो है ना जी वो खिलाफवर्जी हो रही है। यहाँ बरादरीज़म है, यहाँ जत्थे हैं मुख्तलिफ बरादरियों के।
Apart from facing numerous basic problems, the region is facing long hours of load shedding that has added further miseries in lives of small businessmen. Ironically, the region holds massive potential to generate electricity that could fulfill the entire demands of POK. The power generated through hydropower plants like Neelam Jhelum and Mangla is directly transmitted to Pakistan, which holds an illegal authority on water resources in the region.
हज़ारों मेगावाट बिजली जो है वो पैदा करते हैं, लेकिन हम ये देख रहे हैं कि हमारे शहर जो दारुल हुकूमत है मुजफ्फराबाद या इसके मज़ाफ़ात का जो इलाका है, इस सारे इलाके में जो है ना जी वो तवील लोड शेडिंग हो रही है। दूसरा जो बिजली का बिल आ रहा है हमारे पास, बिजली का जो यूटिलिटी बिल है, यूटिलिटी बिल में ऐसे बाज़ चीज़ें डाल दी जाती हैं जिससे जो है ना जी वो आवाम तो देने पे मजबूर होती है, वरना बिजली का बिल कट जाएगा, लेकिन उनका तल्लक जो बिल के साथ नहीं होता। दीगर महकमे जो उसको तफसील नहीं करते हैं, वो लिहाजा वो बरकियाती के बिल में ऐसे टैक्स लगा के डाल दिए गए हैं कि जिनका कोई न सारा न पैरा वो ले रहे हैं, मुसलसल ले रहे हैं। यहाँ हम एहतजाज भी करते रहे हैं इस बात के ऊपर, यार ये आपने जो बिला वजह जो टैक्स लगाए हुए हैं ये किस बात पर लगाए हैं, हमें वजाहत वो नहीं कर सके हैं। तो बिजली की सूरत हाल जो है ना जी वो भी हम ये देखते हैं कि नहायत ही मिज़रेबल है। जो यहाँ दिन के वक्त जो लोग काम करते हैं, ऑफिस में काम करते हैं, या जो लोग यहाँ जो टेलर का काम करते हैं, वेल्डिंग का काम करते हैं, दीगर जो इस शोबे के साथ जो इलेक्ट्रिक क्योंकि हर शोबा ज़िंदगी में इंटर हो गई है काम के वाले से, तो वो जो है ना वो उनके जो है वो बैठे रहते हैं, पूरा दिन बिजली होती नहीं है और लोड शेडिंग होती है, और फिर जो है वो बिजली देते भी हैं, वो कम वोल्टेज होती है, जिससे बाज़ कारखाने, बाज़ इंडस्ट्रियाँ, बाज़ छोटी जो घरेलू इंडस्ट्रियाँ वो भी नहीं चल सकती हैं। तो मैं ये समझता हूँ कि इतना बिजली पैदा करने के बावजूद हम वो बिजली की जो सहूलत है उससे महरूम है।
Pakistan has been using the territory of POK for its proxy against India. The people in the region are not only suffering due to lack of basic facilities, but their land is used for terror training camps. Massive protests do happen time to time, where the locals blame the incompetent and impassive rulers in POK who have left the region to be treated at the booths of Pakistan.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@ani.com. This is Surbhi Sharma, signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.